imagine she is very hurt by the way that Starmer has treated her. But she's an incredibly strong woman, and I think that this saga just highlights actually, there is a bit of a chink in Starmer's armour. After all, and Diane Abbott is she's not going to back down easily.
Well, let's return to the Labour Party. The Times today also looks at the twists and the turns of the Diane Abbott saga. Keir Starmer now says she'll be free to run as Labour's candidate for Hackney North and Stoke Newington, and it's now a matter for the party's National Executive Committee. Jess Barnard is a member of the committee and has been very critical of the Labour leadership's approach to the issue. Jess, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So, right, we've had more clarity than we'd had for the last 3 days, but this endorsement has to be sort of rubber stamped by the NEC meeting on Tuesday. You'll be in that meeting. What's going to happen?
Well, as we've heard, there's been lots of U-turns. This has been a bit of a wild story and a bit of a saga, to be honest. And it has highlighted just how factional this whole mechanism is. But I think what we can expect on Tuesday now is that this will be waved through, and that's what should have been the process all along. This should never have been a discussion point. We should have been focusing on the general election, and Diane Abbott should have had the whip back months ago. So we're kind of where we should have been, but we've been around the houses to get there really, and wasted many weeks of an important general election campaign.
Have you spoken to Diane Abbott? I mean, has she made a decision that definitely says she's going to stand as the Labour candidate rather than as an independent now?
I haven't spoken to Diane, no, but I imagine that she would want to stand as the Labour candidate. She's been a Labour MP for 35 years. She's dedicated her life to campaigning for Labour, and I imagine she is very hurt by the way that Starmer has treated her. But she's an incredibly strong woman, and I think that this saga just highlights actually, there is a bit of a chink in Starmer's armour. After all, and Diane Abbott is she's not going to back down easily, and I think it's a really interesting process actually. Obviously, we had the leader of the Labour Party saying this was not up to him at all, and that it would entirely be down to the NEC, which he controls. But and now, a couple of days before the NEC, he said she's green light, she can go ahead. So it does feel a little bit like someone somewhere has said, that's enough now, boys. Playtime's over. We've got an election to win, and kind of reeled this back in.
You say it's sort of a chink in the armour of Starmer. I mean, inevitably this has given scope for the Conservatives to be highly critical, and Rishi Sunak wasted no time doing that at all. He said that Starmer's decision showed it was clear that Angela Rayner was in charge of the party and not him, saying if he's given in to Angela Rayner on this, imagine what he'll give in to when it comes to the union's demands, higher taxes, or indeed weakening our defence and security. I mean, these types of attacks could have easily been staved off had this been dealt with more effectively, more efficiently, and more kindly, really.
Well, I agree. They could have been staved off, but they are just nonsense attacks, right? The unions haven't asked for any of that. They're pushing for better rights for workers and better pay in terms and conditions, which millions of people in the country want to see. So, I know the Tories are going to have plenty of nonsense to say about the unions, but I think what this comes down to is an overstep by the faction of Starmer's, and thinking that there wasn't this kind of popularity and support for the first black woman MP. And now hopefully this is a lesson that the country aren't going to sort of turn the other cheek while we sort of see these bullying tactics going on. We've had 14 years of a Tory government that's been very unimpressive. We've seen corruption, we've seen sort of underhand tactics in that party, and the public are overwhelmingly rejecting them. So why on earth we'd want to be anything like the Tories right now? It's beyond me. So I think this is a good signal that people are looking for a change in politics. They want to see our politicians behaving in a more professional way and treating each other with a bit more respect. And so hopefully that's the way we can move forward from this.
I mean, it's quite loaded language that you're using, saying things like bullying. And interesting that you said Starmer's faction. I mean, speaking to the Times, he said that the party was no longer tribal. Is he right?
That's news to me, and that's music to my ears if true. But I have to think with that we have to judge Starmer on his record, and we have seen a number of MPs from the left targeted, pushed out of the Labour Party over the past year. We've seen Faiza Shaheen removed of her candidacy. So there's a number of instances where that just doesn't ring true, unfortunately. That the party has always been a very factional space because it is such a broad church, and I think you're always going to have people working with people that they agree with most in places like the Labour Party. But generally, it's been very accepting of that broad church tradition and of people working together and having discussions and debate and finding compromises. Now, I think that that's a tradition that we need to find our way back to, because unfortunately over the past few years that hasn't been the case.
I think the allegation is that Starmer is surrounding, or at least had tried to surround himself with Starmerites, that if elected, he'd have a much smoother path to passing legislation because there would be little opposition. The problem here, and the allegation that's being made, is that maybe Angela Rayner's got quite a lot of power and can pull the strings and actually change the decisions that were supposed to be made by Keir Starmer. I mean, does it give you confidence in the leadership at the very top of the party?
I mean, I think that that's, I look, I don't know the relationship that Angela and Keir have with each other, but I think that it's important that the deputy leader holds some level of power in the Labour Party, because there's a deputy leader. And if you have just one leader with fully concentrated power that no one's ever going to question or challenge, I think that we get ourselves into a bit of a dangerous situation then. So I don't think it's a bad thing that Angela Rayner kind of, has some interventions and is able to contribute. That's the way politics should be. If you think that something is wrong, you should be able to challenge it, as we would expect in our kind of everyday lives. So I think I'd say that's quite a positive thing.
Jess, thank you very much. Jess Barnard, member of the committee, who will be rubber stamping, it seems, Diane Abbott's position on Tuesday. So we'll be following that. Callum, you just wondered, this is the first sort of wobble of the Labour campaign, but we know Starmer retains a 25-point lead in the polls. Is this something quite insidery, or has it cut through to people thinking, actually, who's in charge here? I thought Starmer was saying this was a party of change. How legitimate is that claim?